Everyone, today is Tuesday, November 16th. I was ready to announce my birth date. Sorry. No, November 16th, 2021. It was 1876, but that's okay. 1:32 p.m. This is a special meeting agenda with our Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. Attending Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. Any changes to the agenda? None. Okay, so we have a single item, which is a discussion regarding the Vital Corps contract amendment. Who will lead us here? Captain Deet? Lieutenant
Yeah,
Ellis?
I'll start us off. We were in continuation from last week's board meeting. Vital Corps was in the process of explaining some of the enhancements they'd like to make to our current contract. They've presented an amendment to the board for review. The purpose of this session today is to, I guess, bring forward any questions, concerns, to discuss prior to the 2 o'clock meeting today, where we're hoping to have a decision.
Do you have any questions?
And I do believe Roger's online. Do you want to confirm that if he's?
Sure. Roger, are you on the line?
Yes, this is Roger Hayden. Betsy Gillespie may also be on. She represents us as well. She was going to be on, I think, at some point.
Yes, I'm here. This is
Great.
Betsy Gillespie.
Was that Betsy?
Thank you for joining us. Yes.
Okay. So,
Welcome.
do we have any questions?
Well,
Is there any need for Roger to repeat some of the highlights of what they're trying to do?
Yeah, Roger, can you just give us a very quick synopsis, please?
Sure, yeah. Essentially, I think what I went over last time is that there were two major areas for us where we really realized we were going to experience some additional costs, and both there in staffing. One was in the just the number of the capacity of the staffing. We found that just based on the acuity of the patient, especially mental health issues, that we needed to add some additional staff, mental health staff, to the pattern. I think we called for one, and we need at least 2 FTEs for that. We also added an LPN position as well, and then we doubled up on the some of the provider capacity time as well with the medical staff. We went from I think roughly 12 hours to 24, and we also increased the psych NP, or the psychiatric time, significantly as well. So that item was really just based on what we thought was necessary for some safe, effective health care, just based on the patient need. The other area was in the recruiting and retention capacity that we had. As many of you know, for a lot of reasons, a lot of folks are having difficulty recruiting people, and whether it's in healthcare or not, or correctional healthcare or not. And we experienced that as well in terms of, especially the region. We weren't familiar with the Kootenai County regional kinds of differences that you all experience up there, being so close to Washington and so Spokane County. So we found that we had to increase our salary packages quite a bit in order to, one, retain the staff that we had. And one of our goals is to try to develop a very stable staff. Our understanding is that has not been the case there for a while. There was a lot of staff turnover, a lot of staff vacancies, and again, just to be able to be safe and effective and give good health care, we want to develop a stable staff. And so we wanted to retain the people we had, obviously, but we also needed to be competitive in recruiting folks from the whole region there. So those are the two main areas that we adjusted.
Thank you. When was this contract signed, Captain?
July.
Was it July?
Or
Okay.
commenced.
So, because
This is Betsy Gillespie. May I add some things
yes,
here?
yeah, please do.
Okay. I'm the one that, with our CEO, Viola Reagan, put together this proposal in the first place. And we did look into what we believed were the current salary, the rates for nurses and so forth that were in the Idaho area. And again, we obviously underestimated there. What we were seeing was not what's being reflected with what's having to be hired now. But we also were trying to be very careful with the dollars. We knew what the previous contract amount was, and we're always very cognizant of budgets and wanting to not go too high on those, but yet we know we have to provide for a safe environment for everybody, for the inmates and for the staff. Originally, our proposal was higher than what the final contract was. We did negotiate with Captain Deek and did reduce our original proposal. It was over $2 million. And we had proposed more mental health professionals because we thought that was necessary for this population. We proposed a full-time administrative assistant, and we had also, in order to try to help out the budget and get it down to where it would meet the county's budget, we also reduced an RN wage, which now we come back to that wasn't good, but we found that we needed the higher rate. So we did start out with a higher amount, and in looking at all the facilities that we work with in the nation, I can tell you that this staffing is actually probably on the low side for this type of population. For the size of population, I can tell you that in Stark County, Ohio, there is a population, average daily population of 489 inmates. They have a staff of 23.5 FTE. In Warren County, Ohio, they have a 300, not quite yet, 350 ADP of inmates, much less, and they have 20.8 FTE. Now, we don't want that. Some of that is also because they requested the extra staff. We don't try to pad anything by any means. We're just trying to provide the safest environment for the inmates and for the staff, and so that we can meet all the standards that we're supposed to meet. We certainly want to prevent any liability. We want to take care of the inmates well. So we're sorry that it ended up turning out this way. We do not do this very often at all, where we have to come back in so quickly and ask for an amendment. But that's what it's turned out in this case.
Okay. What's the incremental cost again? What was it, 300,000?
No.
For the remainder of this year, it was 200 and Roger's got that number.
I have right here. So,
The additional amount for this year is $242,011.
42,000, yeah, I see that. My question, Betsy, is, so this contract was signed in July. Clearly, COVID was, at that point, a year and a half old. If your original forecast was higher, that is to say, you reduced your quote from the original, what makes it difficult for me is that how could you, and please don't misunderstand the tone of this question, but I'm asking it very sincerely, how could you have misforecasted when COVID was already a year and a half old? The shortages were well known, not just with regard to staffing, but even equipment. So can you respond to that?
Well, we knew about COVID. Again, I think we have not seen at these high of salary requirements anywhere yet. And so even though COVID was certainly, we were all very aware of that, and we were struggling with that nationwide, The salary requirements are a big part of this, and that we just did not forecast the area properly. Obviously, we bid higher on this with our salaries than we did in another contract in Idaho, and they're not experiencing quite the same that you're experiencing on this side of the state. So, yes, COVID was certainly we're aware of. We've been having recruiting issues just because of COVID, but the salaries have not been affected that much as it was here.
Commissioner, just
Understood,
one
yeah.
correction for the record.
Sure.
The contract commenced on July 1st, but the
Correct.
actual contract was signed back in April.
Back in
And
April.
the RFP was done in February, so there's quite a bit of gap there, and things have changed nationally after the spikes have happened as well with employee retention, and, the housing market here has changed as well. Those are contributors. I just wanted to correct that for the record.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess the way I look at it, we have standards. We have to keep a certain amount of standards, and I think it behooves the taxpayers to do it in-house rather to send everybody to outside healthcare, which then puts an extra burden on the community because then they cannot provide the care. So it's a life, limb liability issue for me. I understand the, February versus November now. Things have changed dramatically in the last 6 to 8 months here locally because of our housing prices and different workforce shortages. I'm not happy about it, but I guess I would ask, as the numbers fluctuate in the jail, does that also fluctuate the FTEs, or the FTEs that we're looking at now are going to stay the same with our max capacity versus our average daily? Does that make sense?
At a certain point, when we reach capacity, which for us is 451 beds, we like to keep that at around 410 to 420, and then we
Right.
look at the possibility of early release versus shipping people out to other facilities. There's only so much we can manage in that facility, and that, yes, we would cap out at an FTE, probably with what they're proposing here, at a 400. It's based on that maximum capacity
Okay,
level,
so
and we've been in the 420s the last month. Our numbers have been high every weekend, and we're at that threshold of we can't hold anymore. So it's full, it's acute, the care is changed.
yeah, well, and I think that's part of the issue too, is we are seeing society-wide more and more mental health issues. So I think that that's probably pretty appropriate because that's where a lot of our mental health people end up, unfortunately, is in the jail.
And the prosecutor alluded to this morning in a meeting that we had. There's, with the prolonged period for trials as well, people are in custody longer, which exacerbates that mental health component. They're not usually there as long.
Well, and be physical health as well too.
How many suicides have we had this year?
We had successful or attempted?
We can get both.
can break 'em
Multiple
both.
attempts. We've had 3 successful.
Okay, okay. And how many inmates have had to be transferred to care, say at Kootenai Medical, for not just mental health problems, but other problems?
Many.
Many,
Hundreds.
hundreds. So do you think if we have an increased staffing level and increased
It would
mental
mitigate
health
it for sure.
presence,
It's risk management, it's mitigation of the
those
problems getting worse. Some people come in and they're not medicated and they should be.
Yeah.
Or they've been self-medicating outside of here, coming off of things that were not prescribed properly. There's a huge chemical imbalance. Alana Vesser, our HSA, is here to probably answer more of those questions.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked at Kootenai County for 10 years in the medical department. I started out as a night nurse when we had only 285 people in there, and it was just me by myself. I can tell you that with the ADP going down, that during COVID, when we were at our lowest numbers last year with correctional health partners, we had the most ER send-outs and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars because the acuity was still that high with the least amount of people. Since CHP has taken over the contract and increased the provider hours, in the first quarter with Vital Corps. We had 22 send outs to the hospital, whereas in the first quarter of this year with Correctional Health Partners, they had 33. The next quarter, they had 37. Last month, we only had 4 people sent to the hospital. So far this month, we've only had 1. So we're saving 50 to 75,000 plus a month right now in the lack of ER send outs.
Just nobody's writing us a check.
No.
No.
And that, I wanted to comment that I have seen a noticeably difference number of inmates that are being sent to Kootenai Health versus from when you took over in July in the previous 7 months. I don't like this increase any more than you do. But it is saving some money on the backside where nobody writes the check on that. But
If we do this, are we going to be good for at least 12 months?
you know, another factor of this is that our population is on average about 420, and we generally don't average that till about summer. So that's not a good indicator. That's not a good indicator of, you know, how our criminal population is increasing here in Kootenai County. But 420 in November, it's kind of unheard of. But
My point, if they come back again and want an increase, it's not going to be very favorably received, for me anyway. I understand why we need it now, but is this enough?
Those are questions for Vital Corps. That's a question Roger
Vital Corps.
would probably have to answer. Yeah.
Whoever.
Yeah. Roger?
Yeah, I would not, as Betsy said, this is not something that we normally do. And, you know, it's a strange set of circumstances. But what we've done is look at the staffing that we think is minimally required and built that in to the budgets. So no, I would argue, at least at this point, that we would not be coming and asking for additional funds beyond what that would be. There are two things. One is I don't think the staffing. I think the staffing is pretty adequate with what we have. I don't anticipate needing to add. Certainly not providers, which are the expensive parts of the budget, or nursing staff. I think we seem to be pretty stable with that. I would also, point out that if we develop a stable staffing, and I think by increasing the provider hours, there will be there's more trust that gets developed with the staff that are there. They trust each other. They trust their judgments. There's more, willingness to deal with a lot of these issues that the inmates have on site and try to do as much on site as possible. Obviously, we want to be able to send people out that need to be sent out, but we want our folks to make good judgments, and I think they make better judgments when they trust each other, and they can trust each other better if they've got a stable staff and it's not a lot of turnover. So, I think at the long run is that this is something that becomes a cost-effective, cost-efficient way of doing business. Obviously, it takes a little bit of time to realize that and to get that staff stable. And I think we've made some really good inroads, but we have to maintain that as we go forward. So the bottom line answer to your question is, with what we've put into the amendment, this first year, because obviously we're not incurring the entire cost of an annualized amount since we're already 3 and 4 months into it. So that's where we've made some adjustments in this first year. And then the annualized amounts would be sufficient as we go forward for any renewal years.
Thank you.
To me, I think this is just one of those perfect storms where we had an insufficient provider before. We were already experiencing problems. We have delayed court trials, so we have longer stays. We have a declining, whether you say mental or physical health in our clients. I don't see how we can't grant this and hope that it does turn out the way that is being presented.
I would
So,
agree. What happens, generally speaking, when you increase your medical staff, you decrease the overall acuity of your patients by providing good care. And when that happens, your costs go down because the higher acuity, the higher cost. On another note, I know from my visitations to the jail and talking with people in the medical staff, they're very happy with this new outfit, Vital Care. Vital Care, Vital Core,
Battle Corps.
Vital Core.
So, any more questions for Vital Corps or the staff?
nope.
Okay, so hearing none, we're not going to be making a decision here. We'll do it during the business meeting.
Yes.
This is tasked this discussion, so if there's no further discussion, I'll ask for public comment on this topic. Go right ahead. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
My name is William Lee. I live in Kootenai.
Speak up, please.
My name is William Lee. I live in Kootenai. I know that you guys are talking about expanding the healthcare service or something like that. A lot of it's due to growth and just not enough facilities in the jail to take care of them. I think maybe one thing, I don't know if you guys have thought of this, but if the Board of Commissioners can explore some ordinances to, I know a lot of people that are in the jail are from Washington. I don't know if there's any kind of ordinances that can be made or crafted to curb that or discourage it. That's something to think about. I don't know if you could talk to Barry McHugh or the attorneys that you guys have. Yeah, that's the first thing I want to talk about. The only other thing that I wanted to talk about was our committee. I know this isn't directly related. I don't know if it's okay for me to
Go ahead. Go right ahead.
talk about this. So this might be unpopular, but for those of you that don't know what the ARPA money is, it's like the CARES 2.0. It's CARES Part 2. It's essentially federal grants that are being released directly to the county from the U.S. Treasury. This is a federal directly to the county. Whereas with CARES, it was the U.S. Treasury to the state. It was dispersed that way. So this is kind of an interesting wrinkle to this whole COVID-19 mania, this whole saga that we've been in. I don't know where you stand on that. That's not really something concern that I want to get into. But I just wanted to. I was hoping to show up this morning to the elected officials meeting to say this, but I'm really just here to get this turned into the public record. I don't think we should be taking this ARPA money. I think we should consider returning that money if possible. I know that Brad Little has some say in this. With the CARES Act, he bypassed the legislature, and he just, it was an executive action for him. He just said, we're going to take this CARES money. And that was that. And so I think with ARPA, it's been a little bit easier. There wasn't really much questioning about what was going to happen to it. Just kind of assumed that the county was just going to take it.
I'm going to have to cut you off in about 15 seconds. Go ahead and wrap up,
So
please.
I'm just asking you guys to rethink it. I know that's not popular. I know that there's a lot of needs. But I think, Kootenai is a great county. And, I'm kind of a new person here and I love living here. And I think we can make our own way. There's so many avenues that we can explore to raise money and grow in a responsible manner.
Okay, thank you, William. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Minutes. Okay, on that note, 1:57, meeting adjourned. Thank you.